I'd like to now welcome to the podium Mr. Jim White.
Thank you very much, Dave. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight on this great project and special event. I first knew Joe Ferris when we were in kindergarten. We started school together in 7th grade. There was a couple of us here tonight in 7th grade. There's no question in my mind that Joe came across his great work ethic as a result of the influence of his parents who owned the Ferris store in downtown Brewer. Joe and Gail, his sister, were expected to work there at a very early young age. And moving right along into the Little League days, 1955-56, the first 2 years of Little League in Brewer, Joe and I played on the Easton Corporation. 2 other players are here tonight from that same team, Bill Ferris and Larry Winchester. And we had some great battles with the teams coached by Slick Corey and Bob DeBeck. In 1956, we won the league championship. Joe was a dominant pitcher in Little League. We ended up at the end of the season playing a team from Bangor by the name of Rotary West, which hadn't lost in 3 years. Joe was a big kid during those days, as he is now. Not a kid, but size-wise. But Rotary West, every single member of their team was the size of Joe. And again, they hadn't lost in 3 years, and we beat them 3-2. Joe pitching and Joe scored the winning run. When you beat Bangor, as was alluded to here earlier, that was something, and that was special. Moving on into the 14 and 15-year-old age group, in what was called the Babe Ruth League in those days, Joe and one other pitcher led us to the state championship game in Augusta. And after that, we went into the high school years. Joe did a great job during high school. He may not have been a flamethrower like Danny. However, Joe had 3 great pitches in great control with his curveball, changeup, and both of those which made his fastball keep him faster. He had 10 wins, 3 losses, and 4 saves during his high school years. After high school, he moved on to the University of Maine and had great success throughout the time in Maine. But during his sophomore year, 1964, the University of Maine won the Yankee Conference title, and Joe pitched against Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, beating them in those days. He ended up the regular season with a 6-0 record. And that led the Maine Black Bears to play against Northeastern for the District 1 title in Fenway Park. And Joe and I were talking earlier that week, and he had sustained a broken left hand earlier in that week as a result of a line drive during batting practice. And but he was concerned. Northeastern had a great team, 26-3, I believe it was. And in the process, they had a pitcher that had a minuscule .48 earned run average. As Joe and I were talking, I asked Joe, I says, "You guys are hitting really well now. You've been pitching really well. I think you got a really good chance of beating them." Well, they went into Fenway Park in a 2 out of 3 game series. Joe was pitching the first game, and Maine jumped out with an early lead, jumped right on that pitcher. And going into the end of the 8th inning, Joe tied a little bit. Going into the 9th inning, ahead 9-5. And Northeastern loaded the bases, and up came their best hitter on the team, a guy named Neil McPhee. And on the 2-2 count, he hits the ball out of Fenway Park. Foul. By about 10 feet. On the next pitch, he grounded out. Maine wins and goes on to the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. And coincidentally, Maine ends up in the first game in the double elimination series playing against Seton Hall. Danny, of course, didn't play baseball at Seton Hall, but he had left about that time. But Joe and the Maine team won 5-1 in that first game against Seton Hall. They went on the next game to play Minnesota, got beat in that game. In the third game, they were playing Arizona State. Arizona State was the number two team in the nation, and also to become the 1965 national champion. In the seventh inning, Joe came in relief in that game. The first batter he faced was a guy named Sal Bando, later to be the captain of the Oakland Athletics and three-time winner of the World Series. Joe struck out Sal Bando and went on and didn't allow any runs, preserved the 4-2 win over Arizona State. With the fortunate aspect of a couple of days of rain, and we were glued, the group of us was glued to the radio as George Hill announced the games from Omaha. With the fortune, as I said, of the couple days of rain, Joe was able to come back and pitch against the University of Southern California, USC, big-time school, the 1963 national champions. This was not Rotary West. The 1963 national champions. Joe pitches a great game. Maine plays well. Maine beats 2-1 over USC. And they went to the final round with Missouri and Minnesota with all identical 3-1 records. And in the process, it's a kind of a flip of the coin, a draw of the straws. And Maine and Missouri end up playing, and Minnesota gets the bye. So Maine plays a great game, but loses 2-1. Finishes third in the College World Series. Just a great, great effort. After that, the Black Bears come home to Bangor and Brewer. There was a great parade through Bangor and Brewer. There were thousands, literally thousands of people in downtown Brewer in Holyoke Square. Holyoke Square is between roughly where the Ferris department store was in the corner of Main and Parker Street, and the old Matt Hinckley store at the bottom of the hill there. And just a great reception. Many of you probably don't remember, there are some in here I believe that do, remember the Farley Ferris night in 1964 at the Brewer Auditorium, sponsored by the Brewer Kiwanis and the JCs to celebrate their achievements. After Joe ended at the University of Maine with a 16-3 record. He was 9-0 in 1964, the best record in the nation. And during high school, there were a number of people, or after high school, a number of people asked me, was he that good in high school? Well, there was an interesting thing that happened. The track teams have known this for years. In 1962, our senior year, the football field was being reconstructed, and we didn't play any games home. We played all our games away. And so hardly anybody saw us play. Well, I think one of the greatest tributes to Joe was by his former coach at UMO, Jack Butterfield, who said he was just a great competitor. Kyle Stump Merrill, who's catcher at UMO, and later worked in the New York Yankees organization for many years, later to be the University of Maine, the New York Yankees manager at one point, said Joe's great success was due to his 4 pitches that he could throw on any count at any time for a strike. And just 2 great sets of compliments from 2 very important people. Joe, after his playing days with the law school, came back to Brewer and been committed to the community in a variety of ways for many years. He served in the school committee. He's currently on the city council. He was involved in the Brewer Economic Development Council for a number of years, involved in fundraising. Probably not too many in here realized that Dennis Kyer organized the group, but Joe was the main fundraiser of $100,000 to put lights on the softball and baseball fields. And think of the number of kids that have benefited from that and being able to play at night. Back to the question, was he that good? Yes.
Jim, thank you very much for those kind words. Jim and I go back a long ways. As he said, classmates from kindergarten through the University of Maine. That little talk we had before we played at Fenway Park, it wasn't quite exactly the way Jim told you. I was bemoaning how we were playing this great team and they had this great pitcher, and I had lost all-star game in Little League in the playoffs, and then I hadn't pitched very well in the Favorite League state championship game. I was unhappy about that. I really didn't pitch all that well in the Togas tournament, in Legion Ball in 62. And then I broke my wrist. And Jim gave me a pep talk. That's what it amounts to. He really did give me a pep talk. And I've mentioned it to him, and he forgot all about that. I mentioned to him since then how, you know, he said, you guys can certainly win. And so I appreciate those kind words and those, and that pep talk. Very impressed with the Mahaney boys and Keith. Great gesture. Thank you very much. I played basketball for Larry. Larry and I played baseball for Charlie Hedrick at Brewer. And they were very different people. Larry was, we played basketball on two teams that really weren't very good. We really weren't very good for three little words. No Dan Coombs. Came the year after. Larry, I was on the varsity my junior year. Danny had graduated, and Larry throws me Danny's shirt at 21. He says, "Well, see how you can do with this." So that put the pressure on right to start. But Larry taught me a lot of lessons, and he was competitive as could be. He was tough. There was no quit in him, no stop, and we would have killed him if he continued to coach guys who won 5 games. I mean, we would have killed him, and I take some part of the role that got Larry out of coaching. We became great friends after I got out of law school, and we would see each other, and Larry and I were very good friends, and he is every bit as important as anybody else in the success of Maine baseball. I mean, everything he did for the University of Maine. And so kudos to Larry and Keith and the grandchildren. Great to have you here. My coach was Charlie Hedrick, and I really liked Charlie Hedrick. Charlie couldn't have been better to me. He kind of took me under his wing, gave me a lot of confidence, told me I could do anything that I wanted to and could win at any level, and that was important. And one thing that demonstrated is Charlie was right. I could be successful at any level. And the other thing that is about playing with Jimmy White all those years, and then at the University of Maine, I played for some great teams, and that really made a big difference. I wasn't overpowering. I wasn't Danny Coombs. I was Joe Ferris, and I had to pitch very well and locate to get people out. And most of the time I was able to do that. I'm very proud to be a graduate of Brewer High School. I got a good education here. I love the coaches I played for. It's an important place in my life. I think Brewer High School gave me an edge, a personality edge. It was us against the world. We attacked things because we were the little guy, and I'm proud of my upbringing and education at Brewer. And we've had a lot of great athletes, particularly baseball players, from Brewer High School that I know of since 1962 that have done exceedingly well. One of them here you're going to honor tonight, and many others, Dana Corey, and the list goes on. So there's something in the water here that allows us to be successful at the university. I hadn't met Clara Swan until this evening. How's that possible? I think that's my shortcoming, because a wonderful lady in Brewer High grad, and so nice to have her here. It's great to have family with me, my sister, my brother-in-law, my life partner, Carol. I'm sorry my daughter couldn't make it. It just, the Thursday night really didn't work for her working in Boston. But I congratulate the other inductees tonight. I enjoyed the stories. I love listening to Danny. I know all of Danny's stories. I tell them to him now. And, Danny, without you running into the third baseman at Seton Hall, you would have been here, believe me. Even without that, that was going to happen. You were that good, and I loved every minute of watching you play. And we'd go up to the field house. I love to tell this story. And this was after Omaha, and I'd throw to Danny, he'd throw to me. He'd take my catcher's mitt, put it on his right hand, backwards, and catch me. And we'd throw in the field house. The field house would be empty, and the ball would go pum, pum, pum. Then Danny would throw to me, and I'd put the mitt on. And